Hello you nerds. It's no surprise that Team Fortress 2 still stands as one of the greatest FPS games of all time. Despite all the bots still running amok, and the possibility that Valve doesn't care about the game, from its community, art style, characters, memes, and even content creators we know today. They're the ones who are keeping the game alive. Hell, I even made a video talking about it. But if there's one thing that really made TF2 special to me, it's the animations. Not just the official ones. I'm talking about fan animations. Ones that are made by using source filmmaker. Because growing up, nothing's more fun than watching all of these unique stories being told in the form of a TF2 SFM. And out of all the SFMs I've watched in my lifetime, I want to talk about a very special SFM that I think we can all agree is the greatest of all time. And if you're thinking of Emesis Blue, well, I mean, I wish I could talk about Emesis Blue, but there are already plenty of videos talking about it. I'm talking about the one that shaped part of my childhood and sparked my love for TF2 even more. This is what I think is the greatest TF2 SFM of all time. This is the Fedora Chronicles, an ongoing series that follows the adventures of the iconic red spy wearing a fedora, alongside the soldier and scout. This whole series has everything to love about, from the action, comedy, dialogues, a Breaking Bad reference, animation that has better quality than Valve's, and there's even a short spin-off series taking place in the same universe as the Fedora Chronicles, all created by a well-known Australian animator, The Winglet. Not only has he made all these amazing animations over the years, but he has also made animations that won him multiple Saxy awards, too bad they aren't around anymore, contributed to a couple of taunts that would eventually be added to the game, and having one animation featuring the voice actor of Scout. Back when I first started playing TF2, I remember stumbling across Live and Let's Spy on my iPad, and for some reason, 11-year-old me decided to watch it, and then watched it so many times. Do you want to know why I became obsessed with watching TF2 fan animations as a kid? It's because animations like the Winglets got me to discover more of these animations that I didn't even know existed, causing me to love TF2 even more. And thankfully I didn't grow up watching this crap or whatever this is. Watching the Fedora Chronicles is like watching this kick-ass action movie where we get to see Spy and his team do some cool badass shit. And it's crazy that not often you see people talking about it since this series is over 10 years old and it only has 4 episodes as of making of this video. I mean, I could talk about other classics like Crash Malls or Ghosts of the Past if I wanted to, but honestly, the Fedora Chronicles had more of an impact on my life than any other, which is why I'm making this video, to take a look back and see what made the series special in the first place. And while we're at it, why not include the spin-off series in my video? Because it's my fucking video, I can do whatever the fuck I want with it. And also subscribe. Starting with the characters. TF2 has 9 different characters, but the Fedora Chronicles stars 3 main characters: the spy, the soldier, and the scout. On the red team because blue team sucks. We see Spy being a gentleman as usual while being a badass at the same time. He's also shown to be very resourceful in any situation he's in, and he is the one who makes all the decisions, making him the brains and the leader of the team. But whatever you do not insult his hat.
In my medical opinion, that is a stupid hat! What?
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Then we have Scout, being the lovable, egotistical jock that he is. He's quick on his feet and can be agile in any fight he's in. As fast as he may be, he's not exactly great at planning or decision making because of his ego. And Soldier is, well, Soldier. Not the brightest on the team, but when the going gets tough, he makes up for it with his brute strength. Although they still carry the same personalities from the game, this is where we get to see their personalities to their fullest potential, and they make the perfect dynamic trio, personality-wise, as the Winglet stated that these 3 are chosen for that reason, instead of all the other characters. Also funny how choosing their cosmetic items at random can somehow make these characters look very iconic. To any of you non-TF2 players watching this, something you should know about the characters is that these 9 characters are part of a different class, and you'll encounter characters, even background characters, in the same class, like these 2 scouts for example. So to avoid confusion, you must pay attention to what they are wearing, because these cosmetic items can make a completely different person, so you know who is who. Why do you think some of these TF2 YouTubers are easy to recognize? So from this point on, we're just gonna refer to these 3 as Fedora Spy, Captain Soldier, and Frontrunner Scout, based on the hats they're wearing. Oh, and how can I forget about the Winglet's Demo Man, who makes a cameo in every episode just to die in the worst way possible. Look at this poor sap dying. I'm actually laughing at his death. Every time I play TF2 and see a blue demo man wearing a party hat, literally the Winglet is the first thing that comes to mind. Wait a minute, since he appears in every SFM, does he happen to have the ability to revive himself? If so, Wouldn't that make him the most powerful character ever made? Did he come from the respawn machine? Maybe I'm looking into this too deeply. And now it's time to talk about the story of the Fedora Chronicles, to see if it still holds up to this day. First episode, Operation Two Fort. The story begins in good old Two Fort, with Fedora's spy being tasked to steal a briefcase while killing an entire enemy team. Okay, not exactly where the story begins, since it's just your typical red versus blue mercs, like in the actual game, and Frontrunner Scout hasn't made his official debut just yet, but this would lay the groundwork for what the Fedora Chronicles will soon become. Captain Soldier seemed very level-headed in this episode, which puts his whole idiotic personality into question, so I can only assume that he gradually got dumber in the later episodes. While I'm aware that the episode came out in 2013, the animation does not look on par with the 4th episode, and rightfully so, as the Winglet stated that he plans on remaking it at some point, and possibly turning it into an origin story. Awesome, that means we'll get more of the Fedora Chronicles, and learn more about Fedora's spy as a character. Though it's only a matter of time before the series truly ends, like all good things do. It won't be until the next episode, Bolted Behemoth, is where the real story begins. In Sawmill, where we get to see two teams fighting each other for the first time. Frontrunner Scout makes his official debut in such an epic fashion, making our main trio complete. And the real story begins with this strange looking NG sending a giant robot to kill the entire red team, turning this whole episode into an epic boss fight. Like Dark Souls, for example. This giant robot happens to be so goddamn strong that it can even fling this red pyro very far. Keep that in mind because that will be important later on. In the end, our main trio managed to pull through and defeat this giant robot, only for the briefcase to be taken back. What I like about this episode is not that the animation quality has improved, despite the camera movement being wonky at times, but this is where we get to see our iconic trio in action, working together as a perfect team. Because you know what they say, teamwork makes the dream work. Is that what the real say? I don't know. But one must wonder, how did the blue team have access to the giant robot? And where did this NG come from? That would be in the next episode, where things get real serious in Live and Let Spy. Funny enough, as I mentioned before, this is one of the first few SFMs that I've ever watched in my entire life. I remember back in 5th grade that I would write a story similar to this episode, except with Pyro in it. Unfortunately, I couldn't exactly find it anywhere since I wrote it in my school's notebook. I mean, I could recreate it if I wanted to, but thinking about it now, it may have been just a copy of this episode with Pyro in it. Now back to what I was saying. At first, this episode is just about our main trio sneaking into the blue team's base. From the map, well, to steal the briefcase that was taken back earlier. Yep, back to our usual red versus blue mercs. With Fedora's spy sneaking in disguise, Frontrunner Scout being an agile ninja, and Captain Soldier, well, I'm surprised he hasn't got caught yet, even when he has the most easiest task, unlike Fedora's spy. But along the way, they discover something much more sinister than we realized. Everything that has happened in the previous episode, the blue NG sending in the giant robot, was all according to plan, to build a massive army of robots and take over Manco for Greyman. This was already established in the comics that Greyman wanted to take over Manco. They get captured, the evil blue medic goes on some generic monologue about how they are unstoppable. And just when they're about to get killed, Captain Soldier comes in for the save, leading up to an epic standoff between the red and blue team. Don't know why I still enjoyed watching this go down even back when I was a kid. Alongside one of the coolest fight scenes ever made, between Fedora's spy and the evil blue medic, Captain Soldier against an army of robots, and Frontrunner Scout fighting the blue pyro to steal their briefcase. While it may just be me reminiscing about my childhood, there are a lot of things I love about this episode. The story has gotten interesting, the animation has improved very greatly from the previous episode. The fight choreography, dude, I just love how they fight. Camera angles like this makes the evil blue medic look like an actual god. Also, is it just me, or does the evil blue medic and Pyro seem to be the only blue members to put up a good fight, unlike all the other blue bozos? Anyways, there are also some humorous moments that even non-TF2 players might understand, and of course, our main trio being awesome as usual, because despite all the odds, they all succeeded, with Captain Soldier blowing up everything around him, Fedora's spy finally defeating the evil blue medic, and Frontrunner Scout successfully nabbing the briefcase. Yeah, that's gonna leave a mark. The episode ends with the blue team and Greyman plotting something sinister, with a massive army of robots in production. And you have to wonder, why is the blue team working for Greyman? What is Greyman trying to accomplish? And what does this briefcase have to do with anything? We won't find that out until 6 years later, in The Red, The Blue, and The Ugly. It's honestly crazy to believe that I was only 11 years old when Live and Let Spy came out, and 6 years later, I was 17, and here I am sitting at home attending online class because of COVID, and saw that the Winglet finally uploaded the 4th episode, and I was like, it's about goddamn time. In this recent episode, we left off with our main trio, alongside Pyro and Demoman, leaving with the briefcase and success.
Crap!
And so comes a convoy of blue mercs, where the red team must chase them down, in one of the greatest car chase scenes ever made. We got action, kills, and a couple of my favorite moments from this scene are how they made us care about this blue heavy for a brief moment.
I am not done with you yet. Did you think you...
Until he dies.
Go back to Russia, bitch!
And Pyro being perfect for the Shining reference. The chase goes on for a while until the truck blows up. And now, for a moment of silence for Demoman, who sacrificed himself to save our friends. And then comes the interrogation scene, which shows how hilariously dumb Captain Soldier can be when it comes to finding information about the robots.
Oh, hello, spy!
Luckily, we have a clue about where the source of those robots might be, which was surprisingly easy.
Oh, come on.
And also, it turns out that this briefcase has nothing to do with the robots.
What?
All this time, and I'm still not sure why the blue team would try to take back their briefcase, but I'm guessing this was their way of distracting the red team from their major goal. Then our main trio and Pyro arrive at what seemed to be Gray Man's factory or something, and before proceeding, Frontrunner Scout decides to come up with a super duper awesome badass plan that involves him flying through a window and beating up some people, like a badass, Captain Soldier crashing through the wall, like a badass, Pyro going stealth mode, like a badass, and Fedora Spy going in guns blazing, all like a fucking badass. Sounds awesome and simple, right? Well... Honestly, his death was a slap in the face. At least Demoman's death had a proper closure, because the first time I saw this, I was like, is that it? Anyways, notice how in Frontrunner Scout's mind, his plan is all bright and awesome, but in reality, it's all dull and lame. That's how you know Frontrunner Scout's ego is high as fuck, because how the fuck could he possibly catch a bullet with his bare hands? Who does he think he is? Neo from the Matrix? So yeah, the building is empty. Or so it seems, because Fedora Spy managed to find some sort of hidden underground mining facility, and now we know what Greyman's trying to accomplish. Hire a team of blue mercenaries to find crystallized Australium, and upgrade his robot army into a super army. If you read the comics, you'll know that any piece of Australium are super rare to find, and can enhance any being. Yes, apparently robots too in the Fedora Chronicles. You don't see that in the comics, do you? Notice how this team of blue mercenaries are the same ones from this animation that the Winglet made. Very interesting, but I'm not gonna go into too much detail since it's just a simple entertaining video about checking who the spy is. Instead of those blue mercs being the classic mercs that betrayed Greyman, Greyman betrays them instead. But not until Fedora Spy comes in with a surprise, starting an epic shootout between the red, the blue, versus the robots, and the super heavy. This is honestly one of my most favorite moments of the entire series, especially how the music slaps so fucking well with the Blue Heavy being the leader that cares about his comrades, Captain Soldier going all out against the Super Heavy, and the most badass Fedora Spy scene of all time.
Stab time.
Scenes like this remind me why I fucking love the Fedora Chronicles so much to this day. Despite things looking very grim, Frontrunner Scout comes in and saves the day. Wait a minute, where the hell has he been all this time? After Captain Soldier finishes him off, Greyman is fucking pissed, officially declaring war against our main trio, to claim that Australium, and he'll stop at nothing.
Go fuck yourself.
And it looks like the blue team won't be our enemy anymore, because now we have a common enemy we must face, Greyman and his army of robots, as the episode ends with the red and blue team teaming up together, preparing for what will be one of the greatest battles of all time, like from Avengers Endgame, or in this case, man versus machines. I'm sure everyone would agree that this episode is one of the best of the entire series. Everything from the previous episodes has improved 10 times better than before. The animation smooth like fucking butter, alongside the lighting, cinematography, and fight choreographies like this make this episode look like an actual cinematic action movie that happens to kick some fucking ass, like James Bond, even though I've never actually watched the movie. And for some reason, I've noticed that this episode has a lot more jokes than the previous episodes. Because thinking about it right now, I've never actually laughed at anything when watching the first 3 episodes. Sure, there are some humorous moments in Live and Let Spy, but the only thing that kept me engaged was the action. The red, the blue, and the ugly has the perfect blend of both action and comedy, like how TF2 intended to be. Here are some of the funniest moments that still crack me up to this day. The Blue Heavy never getting his revenge, Captain Soldier being dumb as usual, like how he forgot to rip out that duct tape. Frontrunner Scout's super duper awesome badass plan ended up being a failure. Personally, this is by far the most funniest moment for me.
Somewhere your father is weeping because of you. What? Nothing.
And I wonder who his father really is. For now, this is where the series ends. Until the next episode, coming soon. Oh yeah, did I mention that joining us in this final battle will be this team of red mercenaries? Where did they come from? And why did Fedora Spy decide to call them for help? Well, to answer that, let's go all the way back to the spin-off series I mentioned earlier. Now let me ask you a question. Have you ever wondered what happened to the pyro that was thrown away in bolted Behemoth? Well, that question is answered in Burning Through Space, a short spin-off series that focuses on the pyro floating through space. I told you that was going to be important, even though it only has 2 episodes. Also, you gotta love how the title is called Burning Through Space, because Pyro burns with fire, and he is floating through space as a guy who plays with fire, you get what I mean. Again, to avoid confusion, we're just gonna refer to this Pyro as Birdcage Pyro, as Birdcage Pyro floats away from Earth, with nothing to do, getting hit by a couple of asteroids, and Wheatley, a group of alien scouts, resides on his stomach. Birdcage Pyro eventually bonds with them, even forming a civilization, with a statue dedicated to him. Hang on now, how the hell did they manage to grow trees to build houses? Then again, imagine living in a city full of scouts. Kinda reminds me of a certain convention. Unfortunately, on Birdcage Pyro's back resides a civilization of alien spies, declaring war against the scouts, which causes both sides to fight each other, ending each other's civilization. Yeah, it seems like Burning Through Space is not as significant as what's currently going on in the Fedora Chronicles, but hopefully that would make sense in the sequel and the finale of Burning Through Space. While it seemed like there won't be a way for Birdcage Pyro to return to Earth, the engineer spots him. I don't know what to call this NG, so I hope everything still makes sense from this point on. This sequel follows the rest of Birdcage Pyro's team, hatching up a plan to go to space and rescue him, by building an awesome spaceship that only took 1 montage to build, which holy shit, this NG is smart as fuck. If he can build a spaceship in a couple of days, I can see why Fedora Spy decided to call it for help. At first, I didn't know why NG cares about Birdcage Pyro, until it was revealed that they're actually good friends. I'm still trying to figure out their character dynamic, but hopefully that gets explored more in the 5th episode of the Fedora Chronicles. As Birdcage Pyro is still floating through space, he gets abducted by a giant UFO, which hilariously has been sent to a waiting room alongside these oddly familiar characters. Still waiting for Half-Life 3 to come out though, and then gets mind controlled alongside even more oddly familiar characters. Oh no. Meanwhile, the rest of the team successfully blasted off to space with a cup of coffee, and they embark on a journey to find Birdcage Pyro, but it seems like finding him may be out of reach, and they're running out of fuel. Before they could return home, they encountered the same UFO that abducted Birdcage Pyro, finally getting to the part where the team must fight against a swarm of alien ships in the most epic way possible. This shows how well they work together as a team. I mean, it's called Team Fortress 2 after all, and what amazes me about this battle is how they managed to stop a potential alien invasion from happening, even if it may seem possible. That was actually my most favorite part of the entire spin-off series. And keep in mind, this is all happening while our main trio is fighting against an army of robots. The team manages to destroy the giant UFO from the inside, but only for them to crash land back to Earth. Afterward, it looks like Birdcage Pyro has finally returned to Earth. Oh yeah, I forgot that he's still being mind controlled. So they fight, and out of desperation to bring back his friend, NG manages to kill the small alien and snap him back to normal. The whole team is reunited once again, and just in time for breakfast.
Hey, what did I miss?
The team is finally back home together to celebrate Birdcage Pyro's return, while Scout is just full of crap. And for how the sequel ends, do you wanna know how everything ties back to the Fedora Chronicles? This is how, as NG gets a call from none other than Fedora Spy, leading up to where we are today. I guess this is where the spin-off series ends. But don't worry, we'll still see them again soon enough, with our main trio, some blue mercs, all against Greyman and his army of robots, and I have a feeling that the 5th episode is going to be the greatest one yet. Well, I guess that's the entire story of the Fedora Chronicles. I mean, the story itself is kinda similar to the actual lore of TF2, but the way they present themselves, from the action and all that cool stuff, makes this series really stand out. Like, the use of in-game voice lines. Sure, it may sometimes not flow well with the character interactions, but it still works well for us to understand what's going on. The 4th episode makes use of these in-game voice lines so well that I can't even tell if it's genuine voice acting, or if it's just in-game voice lines mashed together, except for Greyman. He has a voice actor. And speaking of voice acting, since the spin-off series has one guy voicing these TF2 characters very well actually, wouldn't it be cool if the 5th episode had full-on voice acting? I think that would be cool. And also, wouldn't it be so fucking cool if Shork were to recreate the Fedora Chronicles with the actual TF2 voice actors, just like how they recreate Heavy is Dead? I think that would be fucking legendary. We already got Spy's voice actor recreating this video, so why not? Another thing I want to talk about is the weapon choices. I know it may be small, but take a look at Captain Soldier fighting the Super Heavy. Notice how he is holding 2 pickaxes, both being the equalizer and the escape plan. That's because in the games, one of them increases both speed and power when low on health, which means he's powerful as fuck. It's like I said before, he may be dumb, but he has brute strength. And take a look at the way Fedora Spy uses the ambassador. Like, dude, it's just so fucking satisfying to see him aim for headshots, considering how the weapon works in the game. And it makes me wonder how the hell Fedora Spy is so good at aiming for the head. Even I can't do that. How the hell do I get good at aiming for the head? And let's not forget that although some of the music from the game are used in the Fedora Chronicles, there are also original soundtracks that capture the vibe of TF2 so perfectly that it makes the Fedora Chronicles so fucking awesome to listen to. Plus, I tend to listen to it a lot during my free time. To end off this video, it's honestly amazing how far this series has come. From the story, action, comedy, animation, and the iconic characters and their character dynamic. I was only a kid when I started watching the Fedora Chronicles, and here I am, being a 20-year-old nerd, making this video talking about why the Fedora Chronicles is fucking awesome. And I owe all that to the Winglet for shaping part of my childhood, and making me love TF2 even more. And who knows what the 5th episode has in store for us coming up. And that is why the Fedora Chronicles is the greatest TF2 SFM of all time. And now would you excuse me, I'll be waiting until the 5th episode comes out.